Hello, I'm KPRC2 Chief Meteorologist Anthony Honest, joining you at the start of another hurricane season. Now, there's no way to know if any of the 2025 named storms will hit our Gulf Coast, but we can control our readiness and reduce the headaches and heartaches we may face if one does strike. And it only takes one storm to disrupt lives. So we have no choice but to get ready now.
This is just the beginning. I don't think this is the last one that we're going to see. There'll be more of these as we go.
We're going to be here walking you through exactly what is going to happen.
We're exploring the lessons learned from past weather events and how Southeast Texas is using it all to move forward.
I'm taking you to show you how these researchers are helping us build better.
This is why it's imperative to know exactly where you would go.
We need non-perishable items.
Keep your devices charged.
We've been here before. Being prepared is how we stay safe.
You gotta be aware, you gotta be smart.
This is your Hurricane and Flood Survival Guide, presented by CenterPoint Energy, Quality Home Products of Texas, and the Window Source of Houston.
Over the next hour, I'll be chatting with meteorologist Justin Stapleton as well as Caroline Brown. And we'll also be sharing important information from meteorologists Dajia Swad and Brittany Bagley. Our entire KPRC2 weather team is here to get you through another hurricane season. Justin, Caroline, let's get started with a viewer question. Candy Martin wrote in to ask about predictions for this hurricane season.
Boy, isn't that $10,000 question, right? What are we going to see this season? Well, NOAA's forecast just came out a little bit ago. And as you see, the numbers are anywhere from 13 to 19 named storms. Of that, 6 to 10 hurricanes. And of that number, 3 to 5 will become major storms. That's category 3 or higher, right? So you say, okay, where does that fall in line? Well, unfortunately, it looks like that's going to put us at least at about a 60% chance of an above average season. And if that's the case, well, then that means that there's probably a better than average chance that we're going to be tracking one or more storms for us throughout this summer forecast, Caroline.
Absolutely, but it's so important to remember it's not about how many storms form, it only takes one. In 1983, there was only 7 named systems, of which one became a major storm. Well, that major storm was Hurricane Alicia, and that was a category 3 that devastated us here in Southeast Texas. Now, I don't want to harp too much on the categories because we need to not let our guard down because a system is only a tropical storm or, say, a category 1.
Yes, and it's really important to separate impact from category because you'll never hear us say this is just a tropical storm or this is just a category 1 hurricane. Justa is not a hurricane name, so you have to prepare for those impacts. Okay, reader Simon wrote on click2houston.com, we have to emphasize being prepared. As Beryl showed us, even a Cat 1 can be devastating.
Yeah, if you remember, Beryl was a category 5, weakened considerably as we were watching it get into the Gulf and then ramp back up to a category 1. Here's the thing I think to remember too, that was a second of a 1-2 punch between the derecho, where people were still trying to get power turned back on, and then Beryl came just a few months after that, right? So as you say, there's no Justa, right? And if you remember Beryl, that was the B-named storm, right? So they can come pretty quickly in the season. And here's the thing, longtime Houstonians also remember the destruction caused by Tropical Storm Allison in 2001, right? So you can't let Tropical Storm make you think weak. Allison sat over Houston long enough to flood the entire Texas Medical Center.
Yeah, and a lot has changed in the Med Center since then to reduce the risk of a flooding event. We learn and we improve after every storm. Like after Hurricane Ike in 2008.
Hurricane Ike, I did not have school for 2 weeks growing up because of that. And Hurricane Ike brought a 20-foot storm surge. As a quick refresher, storm surge is an abnormal rise of seawater that's pushed towards the shore by strong hurricane force winds. Now, it's not just high waves. Consider it a wall of water that can raise sea levels by several feet in minutes. So that's why it's important to remember you cannot outrun water. And during Hurricane Ike, the storm surge was so strong it washed entire homes off their foundations.
Now, while buildings are constructed to fend off wind, there aren't building codes when it comes to storm surge. Our Gage Goulding traveled to Miami to see how researchers are looking to change that.
Hurricanes are known for their mighty winds, but it's not their biggest threat. It's actually water. Along the coast, storm surge can level buildings.
So a wave hitting a structure in a hurricane is like getting hit with an SUV or something. It's happening every few seconds.
And inland, the surge from a hurricane backs up waterways that are meant to carry away flooding.
Of course, Houston, I'm sure Harvey was a very bitter memory, right?
It's why researchers are racing to understand storm surge and ways we can build to better weather those storms.
Can we get this better?
But before we see how, we need to understand the threat we're up against.
Storm surge is destructive and deadly. During Hurricane Beryl, 7 feet of water was pushed ashore on Matagorda. That's about what this looks like right here. Now, compare that to Hurricane Ike in 2008, when nearly 20 feet of storm surge was pushed ashore on Bolivar Peninsula. It would be about the height of the top of these palm trees. The point is, every storm is different and they create different problems. That's why researchers at the University of Miami are creating their own storm surge to see how we can better protect ourselves.
This is the ACES tank. It's a place where we can study the interaction of the air and the water.
It's here where Professor Brian Haas and his team create Category 5 hurricane conditions.
In here, we're making fundamental measurements of what happens right where the air and water meet in really high winds to help make those forecast models better.
Using a giant fan system and wave maker, the Sustain Lab here at the University of Miami is washing away previous thoughts on storm surge.
One of the key thing that we discovered in this facility right here was that the wind, when it blows over the water, you would think that that as the wind got stronger, it would continue to increase at a certain rate. But what we found from our work here was that as it got to really extreme conditions, that it actually didn't quite keep going up as fast. It slowed down. What we found out here is now used in almost all the forecast models.
So we're starting to better understand storm surge, but are we building better?
That is something that is still not well reflected in our building codes.
What do you mean it's not well reflected?
Well, there's building codes if you're in a storm surge zone. There's building codes for wind. But there's not building codes for wind on the water in a storm surge zone, and what the role the waves play in addition.
That's exactly what's next for Brian and his team, putting wind, waves, and storm surge together and finding a way to help buildings survive.
We're working towards that. We're not quite there yet.
A lot of great advancements to look forward to, but this year we're hearing some immediate concern from viewers about how job cuts at the National Weather Service might impact the season.
We got a lot of questions about that. Mary Higgins wrote, how will you compensate for the loss of national forecasting? Sarah Shaw, she asked, how will it affect the storm detection and weather warnings for this year's season? And finally, Trisha Hermes wrote, how will we get the real story of what's coming?
So when they released their hurricane forecast, the number one question that people asked, it was not about their prediction. It was about the cuts and how it's going to affect the Hurricane Center. And they said 3 different times, we are fully staffed. It is not going to affect hurricane forecast.
So they seem to think they're ready to go.
Yeah. Now, if I were there, I would have asked the question, how does it affect the National Weather Service offices? Because those are the ones that are really shorthanded, and we have to wait and see how the message from the Hurricane Center that's fully staffed gets to the National Weather Service, who's not.
We'll find out. Storm Tracker 2 weather app is your best friend this hurricane season. It's super easy. Just download it to find updates from the KPRC 2 weather team.
Head to the app or our website to also get the 2025 KPRC 2 Hurricane Guide. It's packed with information including evacuation zones, preparation checklists, and you can find it right now on click2houston.com/hurricane.
Still ahead.
We know that we had a long way to go to improve what our customers experienced last storm season.
We all remember living without power for days after Hurricane Beryl last year. Power lines and trees down everywhere. What CenterPoint says they've done to help prevent something like this from happening again.
Plus, anchor Keith Garvin shows us how to prepare the outside of your home this hurricane season. But first, he has a look at things you should do right now inside to get ready.
We know there are things we need to stock up on to get ready for hurricane season. Things like water, of course, also batteries, non-perishable items. Chili with beef and beans go a long way. But there are 3 other things that you can do right now to get yourself ready for the season. First, you want to make ssure you have some cash. The banks will likely be closed. Those ATMs will as well. And then you also want to make sure that you take care of your prescriptions. You want to make sure that you have enough to get you not only through the storm, but also through the aftermath, because we don't know how long systems are going to be down. And then you want to grab either your phone or your camera, and you want to make an inventory. Take photos and video of everything, all the valuables in your house, and you can also write those down on the list. And while we're speaking of lists, you probably also want to make sure you have a list of numbers, emergency contacts, just in case the phones go down. And then another helpful piece of advice is designate someone outside of the area to be a contact person in case of evacuation.